everyone. Welcome to the Future of App panel. Big name for the end of the day. And so we'll be talking about trends over the next few months, but we also have some really, really pragmatic tips and tricks because we thought, that's the way to go before cocktails. Before we dive in, let's do introductions. So my name is Lea Hartkopf. I'm a marketing consultant, and I've got the pleasure to have the panel here. So I start over there with Charlie. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, yeah, so I work for Sorted Psychic, or Psychic by Sorted Foods, for those of you on YouTube, regularly watching Food Channel. Yeah, that's where we sort of grew up from, and now trying to solve that problem, which is I can't be bothered to cook after a long, hard day. So, yeah, good to be here.
And hi, everyone. I'm Johan. I work with Nude, who's, as you can imagine, a fintech app. And we help first-time home buyers to save for their first deposit, which is a big task, especially these days. So yeah, I'm a CMO for them, and yeah, I'll have the pleasure to talk a little bit about what we do. So thank you.
Hi, my name's Ryan. I'm head of growth at Reflectly. Started off as a journaling app, and then we started acquiring different apps over time. So now we have habit trackers, health trackers, money trackers, and we have a little profile portfolio of different apps that we grow and market and help people live a better, more sustainable lifetime.
Brilliant. Okay. So, Johan, maybe let's start with you with our first question. What app, and you're not allowed to name your own, sorry. What app is a must-have on your phone, and why?
So for me, it will be Apple Music. I just listen to music all the time, like constantly, except for right now. But so yeah, that would be the one. Yeah.
Great. Right?
My favorite app is TimeTree. So I just downloaded it about a couple of weeks ago, and so I got a bunch of different friends in different groups, and it's impossible to organize house parties or events or gigs or holidays together because everyone's got weird time frames. So whenever someone has an event, like a gig, they just put it in the calendar, and then it's very easy to know when people are doing what. So then over time, we can always book things, and they can't just pull out of it because it's pre-booked in advance then. And then I also create a fitness one, so there's 6 of us, and if we do a run, we can post it and post a picture. And if you don't post a picture, we just give you stick. So it's quite good, and that's been my favorite app this year.
We'll have to check that out. What about you, Charlie?
Yeah, I feel like there's a sort of expectations versus reality situation here. What I should say and what is reality. And what I should say is obsessed with sort of Google Maps, and it's as sad as it sounds, but just all my favorite restaurants and bars are on there. How do you get around a new city without it? And reality is Hinge. Yeah.
Brilliant. My answer would be Sudoku, by the way, and I'm ashamed of it. Brilliant. Okay, we've asked everyone to prepare their thoughts about the future of app growth before, and we've got quite a mix of ideas and tips, and we also have some slides. You've got some pictures to look at, which I think is a nice thing to do. So, shall we start with those? And I think we've got Ryan first up, who's going to talk to us about TikTok.
We have a clicker.
Our friends.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, so what I'm going to be talking about today is TikTok ads and some of the things that we do. So where we started was TikTok is an amazing platform at the moment in terms of driving acquisition and user growth and things like that. And some things that I've been learning over testing probably about 1,000 videos in the last couple of months is it's very interesting how you can kind of work with the community to help build your content on TikTok itself. So an example here is what we do is we integrate kind of the product or the app into kind of lifestyle videos with different creators across their profile, but also our own profiles. And then what happens is you get a load of people commenting because you're boosting it with ads and it's getting a lot of attention, a lot of people seeing it. So you get things like people saying funny things like, I didn't even finish the video and I downloaded it straight away. And different people are commenting, giving that kind of social proof. And the more social proof you get on these videos, then the more you can put money behind it because the conversion rate is so good. Because as soon as I watch a TikTok video, if I'm a bit concerned about it, I'll just click on comments and I'll just read that. And then that's proves to me that the video must be good or the product must be good because so many people are talking about it and wanting to figure out what it is. So essentially, placing a product within this ad in a kind of subtle way, not actually explaining what it is, can be a good way to get started as a top of funnel to get people to then understand what it is, and you can work with the comment section to make more videos. And if we go to the next slide, move on one more. So here, what we did is we then took some of those comments, and you can convert those comments into like additional videos. So people are asking for a tutorial of the app. People are asking for what the app is called. And either your own social media manager can create those videos additionally, which can also be used as adverts, because it's just a different kind of format of creating TikTok videos. So then that just feeds into the creative output of all the videos that we make, and we boost with advertising spend as well.
It's interesting from the comments that people are asking for the name of the app.
Yes.
And talk to us a bit about that, because I think brand guidelines is something that's not really helping on TikTok, right?
So if we're talking more about brand guidelines, I mentioned this in the brunch talk at the beginning. The type of content that I would make, I don't take brand too much into consideration. I just throw as much at the wall as I can until I see a conversion rate happen, and then I double down on that kind of style of creative. Because I have a bunch of different apps that we don't focus that much on brand, I can do that. But over time, and if you become a bigger, more corporate company or brand, you need to really differentiate yourself in the market. You really have to make sure that the branding is a bit more clean and fresh, and you can't have the luxury of doing that. So this strategy works for that, for the kind of more startup or earlier stages, unless you do what I believe the guy who did the train line talk previously today, where you can automate content that is still brand friendly, but you can still throw a lot at the wall and still test. But TikTok, because it's video friendly, it's a little slightly different.
Great.
And then one more slide just to finish off.
Okay.
So I don't know if I thought this example was an interesting case study to show related to TikTok. So does anybody know the song A, B, C, D, E, F, U? Yes? Good. So it's an interesting story. I'll be really quick on this, which I thought was relevant. This girl, Gail, she's a celebrity and a singer-songwriter in the States. And she asked her audience, can you guys give me a song to write? What should I do? How should I create a new song? You guys help me create the next song. And then someone replied in the comments saying, can you write a breakup song using the alphabet? Now, allegedly, basically what's happened is the person who's wrote that comment, people have found out, was a marketing manager at Atlantic Records. So they've used the trick of using a comment to make it feel like the community helped her make the song go viral. And the song was already viral and super big and well-known before anyone actually found out. And as you can see, like some of the comments now, later down the road, people are saying, like, I can't believe this was a setup. So this was a scam all along. So people are starting to use almost these comment trickery methods to make things go viral, because it makes people feel like they're a part of something. So that was just a little case that I thought was relevant to share.
Great. And Ryan, what's your advice for the people in the room who want to get started with TikTok, or maybe have tried and somehow hit a roadblock? What would be your
I think your best way to start is to hire or bring in someone who actually makes TikTok videos regularly. So just scroll on your TikTok, find the creator who looks relatively like your target audience, bring them on, tell them you'll pay them a certain amount of money per video, and get them to figure out the trends for you. They love TikTok, they know the trends, let them go at it. And then once they figure that out, hire more creators and then scale up that operation.
Where do you find those guys?
On TikTok, yeah.
Directly on
just
TikTok?
Scroll on TikTok,
yeah.
Or type in keywords for the type of creators you're looking for.
Cool. Okay. On the plan. Fantastic, thank you. Shall we move on to Johan and to your example? If we can have the next slide, please.
Yes, I think we can go to the next slide straight away. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what we do slightly differently at Nude. We, as opposed to like what they call or want to be the super apps, we're very precise into like who our target audience is, because it's first-time home buyers. So we don't want to fall too soon into the trap of going into paid marketing, because we know it can work, but as soon as you scale it, it can be tough. So we try to spend as much time as we can into finding ideas and being a bit creative with features we could build that specifically are tailored for first-time home buyers. And in this context, we were thinking about the idea of network effects and how can we get more customers once someone comes into the app, and how can we make the app more useful if more of them come in. And in our case, we had this very clear and cool example where when someone starts saving for their first home, we know that typically they save with someone else. I think there's a stat that it's like around 80% of people who buy their first property buy with someone else. So we took this learning and built TeamUp, which is on the screen right now. A super simple feature which allows you to pair another lifetime ISA account, that's what they're called, to save faster for your deposit. And it's not a joint account because we know it can be tricky with couples or partners to have like joint accounts and still separate, but you see it as like almost a two-player mode into the app with a combined deposit. And you can see your time to buy going down, which is like our main thing. Like everything is surrounded by time to make it a very clear goal. So we built this feature and we saw like straight away like a great adoption of user starting to use it. And basically doubling, when a user comes in, pairs with someone else, we get 2 users for the price of 1. That's great. Obviously, on average, that doesn't happen 100% of the time, but it starts building up the organic growth of the app, and how can we make something so specific a little bit more, growth or network effect oriented. The other learning that we had with this feature, which is a little bit on the negative side, is it's not necessarily a loop, because once someone pairs with someone else, it's done. Like there's 2 people. So we had to go back onto the drawing board and start thinking about other things that we could do to actually unlock bigger networks around the people who are saving for their first home. But I thought I would share this simple one that makes us slightly more unique than other savings apps on the market. So yeah, just to do something.
Brilliant. And what was your effect on the acquisition side? Actually, did you get a lot of word of mouth through that?
Yeah. So it obviously fluctuates over time a little bit as we scale, but it added I'm not going to say the number, a decent chunk on top of what we usually get from a user acquisition point of view. So yeah. It makes all the other channels cheaper, basically. Yeah. So which is good.
And talk to us a little more about the customer insight, because you said you knew that people would buy together. Yeah. And do you have more insight about, are these couples, are these friends, are these...
Yeah, so I don't have more details, but it's like data that is available, from like through the government, and they share that every year. Like you can get this data fairly openly. So it's just using insights based on your business that is, could be available, and turn that into features and opportunities for you. We know we have like some work to do on the feature, because obviously once you build something, it's never like finished. You can always polish it and make it a little bit better. And knowing that around 80% of people buy with someone else, we're definitely not at 80% in our case. So we know we have that gap to fill in. We would like to match exactly what the proportion in the UK is in the app. So that's our goal now for this feature. Yeah.
And maybe last question for you on this one is, how do you, because obviously you need product, you need tech to make that happen. You can't just, as a CMO, say, let's do it. How did that happen? How long did it take?
I just say, let's do it, and we do it. No, we're still a fairly small team, so it definitely plays into like a big advantage. Like you can move fast and put together like a growth kind of team, like cross-functional, and build these kind of things in a fairly efficient and fast way, and then iterate from them. I'm very much for just getting a MVP out as quickly as possible to like get the data, as opposed to just like trying to polish something that you don't know if it's going to work or not. So in that sense, it works for us. Yeah.
So MVP is the mantra here. Brilliant. Okay, Charlie, over to you. And the next slide, please. And you're going to talk to us about brands.
Well, I know. I was on this panel exactly 3 years ago, and my prediction was not that there was going to be a global pandemic, so take whatever I'm about to say with a pinch of salt. But I do think it's something that's really important, and it's just one of those traditional pillars of marketing that sometimes can get forgotten in this data world. And I do come from that data background, and that's around brand and brand development. So no, it's not Mad Men or anything like that, but it can get devalued or forgotten, and it's just something that I think should just be a little bit higher on people's agendas. So if you go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so when I say brand, I don't mean like a flashy new logo or a catchy headline on your website, because it's much more fundamental than that. It's really like, who are we? Like, why do we exist? Existential questions that are really horrible to answer. How you communicate with your customers, how you build that relationship with them, and perhaps find some non-paid ways to acquire customers and things like that. And obviously it goes hand in hand with product development and guiding which direction you go with your product. But there are just why it matters now. There's a few stats on here, and I know a lot of these have been talked about today. Got the kind of cost of media going up, and this is a year-on-year trend. We've got consumer behavioral trends. You've got the Gen Zs and millennials who are fickle. There's no loyalty. Particularly in some categories, you've got sort of multiple apps on your phone, and you're just waiting for the next coupon code. So it's things like that that are just sort of super important to sort of bear in mind. So if we just go to the next slide. I think if you'd asked me 5 years ago, you should invest in brand, I would have said, yeah, it's just fluff. But actually, I've seen this sort of play out in real terms in the data and how valuable it can be. So, improving your click-through rate on your creative, through to people understanding your value proposition, so they convert from a free trial to a subscriber much more easily, which ultimately lowers your CAC, which obviously we're all here trying to figure out as the media costs rise. And I saw this play out at a previous business. I know some of the guys are here from Busuu, but if you're someone, Duolingo, everyone knows Duolingo, they know what they're getting as soon as they get there. So they go, I understand, I convert. We're sort of fighting against them in the kind of paid media space. So it has real-term data impacts, and I think it's something that's really important that shouldn't be forgotten. And yeah, that's what goes against what Ryan said. So, yeah.
So, question for you, Charlie. How do you, because I think when you say brand to your CEO or founder, probably alarm bells start ringing. And how do you convince them of the importance of investing in the brand?
The founders have loved the brand and nurtured it, and lived with it for 12 years, and you come in after 2 months and go, we need to change. Obviously, you go down a bit like a lead balloon. But yeah, it was really around sort of getting data, so it's market insight, benchmarks, customer research, and just building a kind of simple financial model where we think this is where our competitors are at in terms of conversion rate across the funnel. This is what we're missing out on across a 12-month period. And once you get into the kind of pounds and pence, money talks, and it does make the conversation a lot easier.
Yeah, and there's probably a spectrum as well, right? There's the £10 million TV campaign, and there's smaller steps to investing in the brand. So what do you guys think are the first steps to go?
That's a really good question. I think the first steps are really getting to the getting past the point of it's just a logo or something like that. It's why do we exist? What are we trying to build to change something in the world? Get down to that. I think the founders are generally sort of much more minded to kind of think about those problems, and then from there you can sort of build on it. It's not sort of rush to your nearest branding agency and kind of find them. It is definitely a step process to kind of get them bought into the process.
Yeah, and logo is an interesting one. I saw an ad on the Tube recently which had no obvious logo on it, and as you know, as a marketer, I'm like, oh, you can't do that. And that's very simple things you could do to start showing your brand in all mediums, really, to make your logo big.
Yeah, I mean, just standing for something a little bit. That point, I think it was on the last slide, millennials really care about your mission and your purpose, and that's sort of a shift that's definitely happening, for employees and for people. And they want the business to align with their values. So, just sort of getting everyone aligned in the business around that is a good start.
Fantastic. Employees is a good segue. Maybe if we go into general questions. Thank you for your pieces. I mean, the pandemic has changed the way we're working. We are in the middle of the Great Resignation, I think. Still, how do you care for your people, and how do you keep your superstars and find new ones? Who wants to start? Everyone's like.
I work for a fairly small startup still, so there's not that much of a problem with that. But I think generally speaking, people are more inclined to want to change and have more flexibility these days because they went back home and they can work multiple jobs and maybe they go freelancing. And so I think it's about just keeping a clear mission and engagement and having some level of fun as you're working, just making it as interesting as possible for them in your everyday interaction with them, whether it's on Slack or whatever, especially if you're all remote, which is our case. We don't have an office, so we have to find ways to keep it a little bit light, so it's not always can you do this, and Slack things. I think also we found to be a bit more precise, working in asynchronous videos, doing little Loom videos or something like that, not always being in meetings and working at your own pace. That also helps with that new kind of lifestyle, because if you're always tied up to meetings on a daily basis that you have to attend at a certain time, it makes your daily life at home, if you're working from home, could be very corporate in a way, even though you're at home. So I think you need to just adapt a bit to that. Yeah.
I agree with all his points. The only additional thing I'd say is making that effort, if they are remote, to come together at some point during the year, whether it's once a quarter, twice a year, every 6 months, whatever, just so that you can go in, battle a few things, but spend time together, just going for dinners, building that relationships outside of work, and then go back to the grind and work again. But you've got something to look forward to where at some point you're going to be in person with them. Because then if you're not in person with them at all, there's a disconnect from your relationship with them as a boss or as a founder or whatever. So that's the only additional point I'd add.
I think managing expectations for people coming into the business as well. It's on the employer and the employees. I think there was some research that came out where there's actually the big regret as well as the big resignation, where lots of people are actually sort of going, the grass is the same color and just as bad coffee, at every startup. So I think managing people's expectations coming into the business, this is what it's like, this is what, is reality, this is what it's not. And people then, there's a bit of a matching of expectations there, and they sort of don't come in and go, this is not how I thought it was going to be at all. And then obviously they're more inclined to leave after that.
Yeah. And do you compete a lot for new talents when you interview for new people? Is that hard?
Yeah. with all the big players, yeah.
I think you need to be a bit open to more flexible type of roles as well. Not everything has to be full-time, depending on the size of your company. Maybe working with freelancers or contractors is fine. It gives you a little bit of flexibility on your side as well to move fast and try different type of profiles and people, and you can always try and get them full-time if they want to. But I think being a little bit adaptable on what the future employees want as well, and the way they work is fine too, just being a bit flexible. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, let's take one question from the audience. There's a question about, do you have an analytics team and how do you work with them?
I wish. Yeah. Go on.
We don't. I guess I am the analytics team. It's not very big. I just have to make sure. How much of yourself is the analytics team? Everything really, except I just make sure that I'm making more money than I'm spending, and I have to work out all the variables that go into that. That's about as analytical as we are right now, because we're still a small team. But yeah,
we're in a very similar position. Yeah, sort of one-man analytics team, and there's just an inflection point at some point where you haven't got enough time. You're focusing on loads of other things. Yeah, there are tools that can help you. Analytics providers that do a lot of the heavy lifting that an analyst would do. Obviously, once you get more sophisticated, you do need someone to be focusing on that. But yeah, there are definitely things that can solve problems, basically.
So what would be your next hire? Would analytics be your next hire if you had one? Or would it be someone else?
think we're before that. I think data engineers, if they're only out there looking for a job.
Yeah, I mean, we're just hiring general engineers because we have a lot of apps that need to be worked on, I think, and then maybe like a freelance ASO person to help us with the different product pages and the variations and the new features that Apple has released. That'd be the additional hire I think I'd make.
For us, it would be a TikTok creator. So if you're into finance and like TikTok, just come to me.
Also, shout out any TikTok creators that are out there, come find me afterwards.
Brilliant. Okay, let's talk about web. I think that's a theme for the coming year. So how big a role does web play on your growth plans?
I think huge. I would say it's probably the biggest focus for us for the next year. I feel like we've got most of the other stuff in a good place, but for us to really excel and grow to the next level, we have to have a bigger defensive strategy against just spending money on ad platforms. And if we can have web, we can, again, take advantage of the reduced tax and the loophole that comes with that. But it's very rare that brands have actually been able to fully solve for that. Although we were almost about to bring on a new app soon that makes half of its money from web, a significant portion, like 200,000-300,000, and that has opened our eyes to the learnings of what web can bring to you, even if it's like an additional layer to the business. You get to control the whole journey, you get to remarket. It's so much better.
And is it about building the journey in the website first? Or are you thinking about acquisition as well?
I think both. I think web opens up a new way to acquire users. It opens up, you can acquire them for more money because you can offload the tax payment. It opens up just a whole number of doors. But it's super hard because you have to get them through web and then into the app. It's just not ideal.
What I would add to that is using web for experience, like a brand experience when you have an app, just to complement what your app is about. One interesting fact about why I joined Nude is one of the co-founders is actually the guy behind one of the websites that some of you might know called Poolside FM, Pool Suite. It's one of the coolest websites ever. It's like just a playlist, like you were next to a pool and just chilling. It's a whole experience. Very successful website with ton of traffic, and it's very creative. And I think that's something that would be nice to bring a little bit more into the fintech world. Just experiences around what you do and how can that enhance what's in the app in different ways and bring the brand to life. I think, and like you said, also do acquisition on top of that and bring that notion of just traffic from the web and just leveraging that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure there's a huge amount to add, but yeah, there's definitely been a shift, particularly in COVID, which I think has stuck around, where people are at home more. They want a bigger screen size than just an app. And whilst it's not like front and center of what we're doing now, there's just a huge amount of search queries just happening on Google that are around food and recipes. This is obviously related to us, but for lots of sectors, which we're definitely just not maximizing. We've actually made a bit of a choice not to go on web for now, just because our huge competitors are actually there and they've acquired all their customers there. So bidding on keywords there is a little bit challenging, I think, for now. But if we ignore it, then we're missing a trick.
And how does that reflect from a resource point of view? Because obviously, when you add web, you've got to do a few more things, and probably from a development point of view, that makes it more complex. How, roughly percentage-wise, how big would web be from a resource point of view?
We outsource, so work with an external team just on web, with as little touch point as possible with the developers that work on the app, just to make it like a whole different thing that can work at its own speed, hopefully faster than what the app development take usually, because that's a little bit more, that's the main thing. But yeah, that's how I do it.
Yeah, well, we're a small team, so it's really not on the list. I'm hoping one of these guys are going to be able to answer the question for us so that I can steal it.
No, same boat as Charlie, really.
Great, okay. Our time has gone, right? So it's that's us between cocktails. They're not going to make themselves, so we're going to go and have some cocktails. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening, and thank you very much to the panel for sharing your ideas and your plans. Fantastic.